Hello everyone and welcome to our today's webinar about how to position and specialize yourself as a freelancer. I'm really happy that I'm not alone here today and I have three amazing guests. After some organization stuff, they will have the chance to introduce themselves. I'm Nick. I'm working as a business development and community manager for Uplink. Just a short sentence for those who don't know us yet. We are trying to be an alternative to classical IT recruiters. So if you want, you can check us out later. Regarding the agenda of the webinar, we are pretty open to that. So basically there will be a short introduction rounds of our guests today, and then we want to dive pretty quickly into your questions and have a lively discussion about the today's topic. While we are having like the talk, you have the possibility to ask some questions to the participants. You can do that while using the Ask a Question poll in the toolbar. If you have some problems or could not hear or see us, please pin us in the chat on the right side. Then we're trying to figure it out. Cool. So welcome Holger, Dimitri, and Erik. Maybe it would be cool if you can shortly tell us how long you're already working as a freelancer, where exactly you are at the moment at your freelance journey, and what are the classical projects or clients you're dealing with. Maybe Holger, you want to start?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thanks for having me. Hi, I'm Holger Steinhauer. You might know me as the Unglaubliche Holger, Incredible Hulk from LinkedIn or videos like Front End versus Backend. If not, look this up, it's fun. And myself, I'm a techie at heart, doing coding for years now. So started in 4th grade, I think, something like that. And made it a profession and made myself self-employed in 2018, roughly. Yeah, 2018. And started classically as a contractor, still doing some contracting, and there my journey brought me to Java, JVM, and lately I love Kotlin, so I would rather choose a Kotlin project than a Java project, but still do Java projects from time to time. And my comfort zone is backend development, so I love to tinker around with databases and backend services rather than putting something 5 pixels more to the right. At the same time, I'm currently building up my own agency, Steinhauer Software. It's essentially incredible solutions with credible results. It's all about building individual software for startups and small and medium-sized businesses who are not having their own IT department. So essentially being the back end, pardon the pun, for my clients. Client-wise, I have a rather mixed client base. So right now it's for a large American e-commerce company, and at the same time I worked for small startups trying to establish new social media kind of services for very niche groups with nice ideas behind it. So it's really mixed. From the client size as also of the project sizes. So yeah, this hopefully sums it up. If not, ask questions.
Thanks. So maybe Dimitri, you want to be the next one?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me here. So it's a pleasure to be a part of this event. And a few words to myself. Dimitri Albenkov is my name. So I'm originally from, I finished high school in Düsseldorf, and then I studied IT security or information security in Bochum and in Norway. And after that, I moved over to Frankfurt to work for Deutsche Bank, where the last few years I worked or started to work as a product owner or product manager in the digital factory. It was a lot of fun, so I can recommend Deutsche Bank or digital factory specifically to anyone. And the last 2 years, since 2019, I'm based in Berlin, and it's my 2nd year as a freelancer now. So I'm the 5+ years as a product manager now, and 1+ year as a product manager freelancer. And as Holger mentioned, my client base is everything from a really small company to an SME to something big. Right now, I'm working part-time for ImmoScout, Scout24. They're also based in Berlin. But also I'm doing smaller gigs. Specifically, today was a long day, and I did a scoping workshop for Heidelberg School of Education, which is also really, really interesting. But it also ranges, like the client base also ranges to clients like Better Place, if someone heard about that, or Better Place Academy, to be more specific, which is just like a platform for anyone interested in NGOs or building an NGO themselves.
Cool, thanks. So last but not least, Erik, maybe you want to say a few sentences.
Hi, thanks for having me here. Hi, everyone. I'm Erik Matt. I used to be, or started my profession as software developer a couple of years ago. I guess it was 2007, if I recall right. A transition from being a developer to being an architect, and then later on I realized, okay, it makes more sense if someone with a tech background leads projects and brings them further. So I made a couple of mistakes in the past years, and learned a lot about stuff. And then I realized, okay, there is some part of my professional life and my private life where it all sums up, and then I got stuck in some turnaround situations, which is basically now my primary focus is helping software development at, for example, critical stages, being Erik's client is not using the headphones. Oh, is there something messed up? You understand me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
So, sorry. Seems like
it sounds like you're at the beach somehow.
Okay. This is regarding our topic right now because Firefox is doing a lot of work right now on the CPU. I'm sorry. So yeah, with a bit of distance to the MacBook, maybe this helps. Okay. So where were I? Yeah, I'm helping software development projects in the critical stage, getting back on track, resolving conflicts and all that stuff. And another part is coaching managers, for example, also in challenging situations or in conflict situations. And a new part of my business is now doing business continuity management and IT emergency management. Yeah, so that's basically for now it. Thank you.
Cool, thanks. So maybe it's already the time to dive into the first questions of the audience. And yeah, trying to figure out like what freelancers in general can do to specialize themselves and how it has been for you guys. So the first question, I think it's already like one of the most essential questions on every kind of freelance journey, at least at a certain point, is like, should I try to productize my services? I think that's basically somehow where you stuck in at the moment, Holger. It's like the part when you kind of, or maybe you can tell us more about it. I think at a certain point when you have the feeling like, okay, I can offer my services, but I could also maybe hire a team or something, and then trying to sell a specific service to the clients instead of just the hourly work per hour.
Yeah, it highly depends on how you see product. The thing is, as a freelancer, this is fine, or more specifically as a contractor, which is fine if it is fine for you. You can't scale. So the only way of scaling yourself is working more hours, and trust me, these white hairs don't come from nothing. So it's not sustainable in the long run. So for me, contracting was always just a mean to an end, but it's also because for me it's important to tackle the issues I've seen as a permanent employee where a lot of things went wrong, plus creating the workspace I never found for me. So I'm building it essentially, plus bringing the benefits to the clients, or the mixture of this, produces. So productize is, so product versus service is always an interesting discussion. Having a product in the sense of you have a software as a service, you have a tool, be it physically or as a software. It's easier to market because you have something which already solves something. So you can go to the client and say, look, you don't know it yet, but this little thingy here or this URL will actually solve your issues. Providing a service is a bit harder because if you burn yourself with the product, you can always change the product. If you burn yourself with the service, it's your name on the line. So this is what I mean with depends on how you see product. If you find a niche where you say you see something and this looks like a lot of companies struggle with it, and you can make a product in the sense of software out of it, I would highly recommend doing it. And this is also something you can do while you're still doing your daily work, either by outsourcing to other contractors or hiring your own team, or just stop doing what you're doing and building the software. Building out a service company is a bit harder. It's worth it if you want to do it. So it really depends on what you want to do, what your time horizon is. If you just want to tip your toe in the water, try contracting. It's a really nice and smoothish way of getting into freelancing. If you are doing it for the money, contracting isn't the thing, because it just isn't. Even if it looks as it. Then you might want to go down the classic startup. I built something which can scale quickly in a large way, and I'm happy to discuss this. I'm not sure, Dimitri, or I think you, Erik. It's also it sounds like the areas you have loads of potential to have like a service for it.
Basically, that was also my idea to cut in with you. First of all, I had some struggle with this, and it was like epiphany at some point to realize what a product or a service in fact is. It's just a delivery mechanism to solve a problem. And for myself, sometimes I got stuck in building something, and was too focused on the input rather than the output. So, for example, what is the actual problem? What is the actual value I'm delivering? The problem I'm solving, the value I'm delivering. And for myself, for example, it's like I'm currently not publicly, but in private or in discussions with customers or so, because currently I'm working via recruiters like Uplinkverse or so. But later on in some discussions or during the project, we realize, okay, there is something we need to solve. Basically, it's often a transparency or a communication issue. And I offer a standard product which is called War Room currently. Some would suggest it's mission control. But basically, what I do here is I got a productized service, if you will, which helps the customer to get more clarity and get more transparency in their organization. And I delivered this by, for example, doing this on my own. I got my concepts ready. I got all the stuff I needed. And then I can deploy it within a couple of days. So the customer has some value, and I figured out, okay, a problem I'm solving quite often.
And I think this is a nice way of looking at it. It doesn't mean that you have to have a team ready. It just means that you have, like you nicely explained, a concept. And then if you see this works, you can scale because the concept is written. It's essentially you start up building out the playbook, then you can scale this in the sense of getting more people on board. What is better? Okay, so what is better now? I think Erik?
I think regarding the sound quality, that was your question, right?
Okay, sorry. Yep. You got me there. No worries, all good. And in the end, it's really up to what you want to achieve. If you just wanna work your way through through projects, go with contracting, or think about a good employment. If you have the drive for more, think about how you can productize, in the sense of have something which you can easily explain. A good friend of mine put it really nicely in saying, Holger, you have a really great, horrible problem. You are selling services, not a product. And it's like the product is something which is between me and the customer. So it sits as like an intermediate in the middle, and everything which is good or bad is it's seen towards this product, this immaterial or material thing, but not me. If you take this out and you provide services, how I do, it's people get pissed off with you. In the worst case. So yes, if you have an idea, if you can put in really a catchy name and a catchy domain is like half away nowadays. How you can see, you can also see this with all kinds of vulnerabilities nowadays. It's only a good vulnerability if you have a catchy name and a domain for it. It's the same for a product. So you can go out, you can have like a little mascot, you can have your own branding for it, and then go ahead. Services is more or less you. And this is already, I think, going towards the other selling question. But yeah, so yes, if you see the need, but listen careful would be my advice. Don't try to stress it. There are enough niches and enough things to solve out there. And if you see it, try it. I mean, like Google puts it with learn and iterate. It's like don't overstress. I think this is what you said, Erik, as well. It's like don't bother too much with the input. Try to deliver something and learn from it, and then iterate on this. It's a very agile mindset as well, but you learn from it a lot, and then just see how far you get. Dimitri, ideas?
So basically what you're saying, if I got it right, like to do it kind of in an MVP way and bring it like really quickly to the market and then see like how the reactions are, right? And I think in general,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe if I'm wrong, but also as a freelancer, you already have like kind of a broad network, like former clients or stuff where you can just like go to network and ask them for their opinions regarding your service or product, right?
Oh yes, if you have something like this. I mean, we had this. What was it? Freiberufler IT, or what it was? The essentially the little database collecting what you roughly do and your current day rate or hourly rate, and then collect this to get a better overview on how much you could charge. This was also like someone had the idea, he built it, and then just ask around in the network and see what the feedback is. This is the ideal thing for a product in the sense of you have something like service, software as a service, like online URL where you can sign up. You can even give away some free freebies or whatever, and then just get the input, the feedback on it. With a service is a bit harder, but I think Erik is up to something there. If you can identify something you do over and over and over and over again, and the solution looks like it is, in the lack of a better term, scriptable. It doesn't necessarily mean Python. It's more like you can write it on a piece of paper with 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of it, like a playbook. Try it. It might be the thing easier to sell than to go out and say, like I do, and I just learned this the hard way at the moment, going out and say, I build software for you, and then people look at me and ask, oh, you do websites? And not quite. So having a product is always easier to sell, and what this product in the end is depends on your view on it.
I totally agree, but there is one tiny bit about it, because I try to not look for what I have done input. I try to look for what have I what's the effect of my work? What problem did I solve? So, for example, I do currently like a weekly review, a weekly reflection, one with the teams I'm working with, and the other with myself. So, and then I try to project the value I delivered. And then I got like I didn't, for example, do like the same iteration or the same steps quite often. I just realized at some point, okay, there are common problems, and that's the reason why you need to do contracting maybe first, or consulting or stuff like this, to see a lot of companies, to connect the dots, and then realize, okay, good. We got a transparency issue, which is usually visible like this, and then you also got the offer for your client, because there's the need for someone to buy it at least, and how do you communicate it? I didn't communicate it on my website or other stuff until now, because I had to figure out the right words, how to get the attention of those buyers.
Maybe just to add on that, and to not to spend too long with this question, just my opinion on that. I think actually, while talking to different clients and working with different clients, I think the products will crystallize themselves out of it. Like if a couple of clients ask you to do a scoping workshop, sooner or later you will have some things prepared already, like a Miro board, where you have the beginning, the introduction, and whatsoever, and you can reuse these things, and you will understand also along the way, okay, this is something that is a lot of fun for me, for the clients, and this is what I can market for the rest. And there is like a specific interest in this. I don't know. Let's take an example. This is this workshop, and this is something that you can put on your website and say, hey, I'm doing the scoping workshops. If you're interested, this is the price tag. And I think this is the way that naturally will lead you to those products.
Yes, and a wise man I work with said once, is like there are always two things when dealing with problems, or with solving problems for your clients. One thing is get the problem solved for the client. The second thought is, can you make a product of, or could this be beneficial for other customers or clients as well? And the more the answer is yes, the more you found something.
Cool. So I think the best is like to go the whole journey, and then it kind of comes out organically, right? Cool. So one of the next questions is like, what specialization should I choose? Should I go niche expert or jack of all trades? I think also probably every one of you kind of know that kind of issue, also especially when working with clients. Someone, they're really looking for someone who is doing exactly that for years, and the other one is more looking for an all-rounder, and it's really hard, at least from my perspective, working with the clients, to convince them to go for either the other one, when they have this picture in mind. I want someone who did that and that and that, or I really want someone who is doing exactly the same thing for like 10 years. So what are your experience with that?
Should I start this time? I guess at least for me, the answer is on the surface. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. So if you're too much of a generalist, then it will be quite hard to sell yourself to the potential clients. If you're too niche specialist, then I don't know, imagine you're a specialist in pen testing in Kali Linux, but only for routers made by a very specific company from the year 2020. I mean, how many people need that? And even if you're like super good in it, I might assume that you will be still struggling to find clients and to find projects with this skill, even though the skill will be like, you will be better than 99% of the rest. So in my point of view, I can only repeat myself and say that like as a freelancer or whatever, even if you are just a normal employee, you need to find the golden middle and be good at that specific area.
Yeah, I like the metaphor of a T-shaped specialist, where you have like you have like a broaden overview of what's going on, but you also have the thing you go deep on, with really high knowledge. In the end, from my perspective, is people put you in a box, especially recruiters. So when you have the tag, let's take my example, Java on, they will get with Java roles to you in contracting. If you have products, if you have services, the first successful thing you brought out will be the thing people remember you for. And you will, if you then start trying to switch your focus, it is a lot of work to do because people have you in this box. It's easier to market if you have a really, really specific niche knowledge, but not too nichey. Like pen testing instead of pen testing the 2020 edition of a Kali Linux running homebrew router. Lovely example. But of like, you are a pen tester, or I am a backend developer, mainly using Java, Kotlin. So this is easier to essentially sell or go out and say, this is what I'm doing, rather than saying, I do everything with computers, so including dusting them.
I'd say I got a different opinion on this because, for example, if something is too specialized or too niche, or how could you tell? For example, there is still a market for COBOL developers, because still there are banks using those old COBOL systems. So from the perspective of a modern software developer, this could be too niche because, oh my goodness, I'm not getting any clients. But on the other hand, you got all the positive side effects of clear market specialization, because you know who's your client, your potential client. You don't have a lot effort in reaching them, because it's all crystal clear in that case. So, for example, also with pen testing in special cases, I'm not capable of speaking for this, but what I think is, if you want to work globally, if you're open for working globally, there is, I'm pretty sure, a market for almost the oldest version of any software, because still companies are supporting it. Basically, it's all about what's your interest. So another thing is specialization develops by time. Going back like 30 years or so, it was like a specialization saying I am a developer, not anything additionally like engineering developer or stuff like this. It was just a developer, and everybody thought, oh my goodness, he is so damn specialized. Now, if you're a developer, you not only have all those languages, you have all those build pipelines, you have all the stuff, and nowadays people tend to think, okay, oh my goodness, I'm a DevOps, am I too specialized or not? But if you go further down, I think you get what I'm talking about. So the key points, I think, is market size. Is it a viable market, depending on what you want to attract? And also, specialization is also like the question, what problem do I solve? Is there a problem? If there is a problem, then I'm not specialized. I don't have any issues with it, because usually we talk about I am specialized in particular language. But if I'm specialized in solving a particular problem, I can change my approach very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Then one of the next questions is like, how do I effectively sell myself and my services when I talk to clients? And I think like it's also like pretty interesting. Do you have the feeling like in general it's already clear in the beginning when you talk to clients if that is like a contracting gig, or it's something where it's also appropriate to talk about your services, or it's just, are the clients like open in that case, or it's already like pretty determined in the beginning?
I'd like to start on this. because the issue with selling is, when do you need selling? You need to sell something which is commodity, which you can get at the warehouse store, for example. But most of the interviews, most of the successful interviews I conducted were about just asking questions and listening. And if you get into the books, sorry, not my day today. If you get into what the experts say, it's like all over at the same time. Talk less, listen more. But it's not about just this. It's also like understanding the real problems. It's all about the customer. They don't give a damn about what you think, what you could offer or not. They're just interested about their problem and if you could solve it. And if I don't feel like being able to solve it or stuff like this, then I either say just, okay, I don't think we are a match, or refer, or I say, well, I think I can solve it, but I will give you like a short example of how I could solve it within one business day. Usually it's perfectly fine. And then you also get your your head start to the competition, because usually no one takes time to deep dive into the customer's problem.
The question is always how do you get to clients, and how do clients approach you? Ideally, as Erik said, you're not selling. Ideally, clients come to you because they want to have something solved, and this is a process. So you have to essentially take this little place in your future client's head, which has the inscription on it, developer, project manager. And if they need someone who's doing this, the first thing which should come into their heads should be your name. But this is nothing you do in the client not interview, but in the client meeting. So if it is about selling or placing yourself out there, it's a lot of work. Put out content, use social media, use GitHub. It doesn't mean you have to use all of it, but it's always good to have something which is presenting what you do, which is current, which shows off. So once you get to the client, and this is where it gets a bit trickier, because if we look into the classic or real freelancing, or being a real business owner, this is more of a client acquisition question. So how do I get my company name in front of a client, or even better, into the head of future clients I don't even know exist yet? Whereas contracting is more of a thing. Well, I think this is the next question, of recruiters get in touch with you, and they essentially did all this, all the work of finding someone who needs people to do work for money. They did this already, and they try to find someone to solve the problem of their client, and then this kind of client interview or client meeting is a bit different, because you have a rather specific niche topic you talk about, or at least the goal is a bit more set than with a client you try to acquire for you as a company. And there, the best tip I can give is just be yourself. Listen to the client. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try because someone said people like or clients like their consultants to be in a suit, and they have to wear this kind of watch. It's total. Sorry for my French, but bullshit. Be yourself, because you will, if you work with this client, you will work with them, and they will very quickly find out who you are, how you tick, and this is part of the package they buy. So be yourself, be honest. It's okay to a bit kind of stretch it, but it's selling after all. But it's more about talk about what you did, what your experiences are, what your thoughts are, and it's absolutely fine to have different thoughts and to see how this kind of little conflict you have in there is getting solved in this time, and see if you want to work with the client, because it's always a two-way street. So the client needs to want to work with you, and you need to want to work with the client.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, it's often because, of course, the recruiter, if they are like a 100% salesperson, they're already sold to the client the idea of that freelancer. I think we all know it, who can solve like all the problems. And if you look at some job postings with like 1,000 requirements and 100,000 skills, and then you are like, it's a task. Unfortunately, often the case that the freelancer is then the one who needs to make a short reality check and also explain the client that's possible in that time, or these or something they're just not doable, or it's a totally different time frame you're talking about, right? So it always makes sense to to be very realistic there. And as we were already talking about the bad recruiters, the next question is, why do companies ask recruiting companies to find freelancers most of the times instead of reaching out to them directly? So maybe you want to say something about that first. Then I can also give a short idea what I have about that. I worked for two of the bad recruiting companies, of the big ones, and then maybe I can tell what's their approach and why I think often companies first get back to them.
Yeah, maybe just jumping ahead. I think Nick, you're the best person to ask this question. But my opinion would be that it's just easier to find a recruiter. There are less recruiters than freelancers, and recruiters have access to many different freelancers, and that's why it's easier to talk to one recruiter or like 3 recruiters, and they give you access to 300 freelancers instead of talking to 300 freelancers and fighting the way to find them. So I think it's just, for most of the companies or the clients, it's just the easy way to go.
I partly agree, because if you look at how many recruiters are out there, and sadly a lot of bad ones out there, there are as many recruiters as freelancers out there. And funny enough, many recruiters are freelancers, which is a complete interesting thing in itself. It's a funny thing, because many companies I worked with and I spoke with people, CEOs and CTOs and finance, and everyone is complaining. So the freelancers are complaining about the recruiters, the companies are complaining about the recruiters complaining about the recruiters, and still they are used. There is one thing which kept stuck with me, which was the only real thing I think actually resonated with me, and this was, if you go via a recruiting agency as a company, you have the benefit of, you don't have to deal with say if you need 10 developers or 10 freelancers, let's keep this on, you need 10 freelancers, you don't have 10 negotiations on contracts with 10 different people, working with 10 different frameworks and trying to do 10 different things, but you have one contact who's dealing with this, and this one contact, the freelance agency, gives you, as a company, gives you one invoice per month you have to pay, and then they deal with all the nitty-gritty. And sadly, because there's so much money in the market, there are a lot of not so well skilled, is this politically correct enough, people out there which should think about change of business. And it's, there are a few other things as well. This whole Scheinselbstständigkeit to deemed employment things also always part of the discussion. But I think if it is just the network, and if you look at the actual work you have to do, even when you go through a recruiting agency, it's not much different to, well, open LinkedIn yourself, sign up for a recruiting account, and just use the search for yourself, because this is how, I'm not saying everyone, but most of the recruiters do, and then just start spamming and trying to fill their books. And this is why so many recruiters just try to get your CV in, because then they can go to the companies and say what Dimitri, what you just said, is like, look, I do have like a list of, I don't know, 10,000 freelancers in your space. They don't have it. It's just you're on the list there, and the same list is on LinkedIn, is on freelance.de. Sorry, Erik, you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. In 3 previous roles, I was in charge of some kind of development organization, and I had to recruit people. And usually it was like I needed them immediately. I didn't have the resources, and I always sought out to get recruiters, and I don't like working with recruiters usually. So also from the contractor side, I don't like it that much, because, for example, it has a couple of side effects, which are like because some part of the negotiation has also already happened before getting in touch with the client. But this was one of the main reasons I decided to hire recruiters, because I had, per company, I had one person pitching the problem, saying, okay, I really need it badly. And on the economic side, I was lucky enough to get discounts, to negotiate the contracts in advance. So, for example, after having like 50 interviews in a couple of days, I had my team staffed. I had made it was cheaper than, for example, having my assistant doing it or stuff like this. And I could free up my mind doing more of the strategy work or other stuff. So from the client side, it makes totally sense, even if I also, from a client perspective, thought to myself, oh my goodness, I don't want it. I really don't want it, but I needed it. And yeah.
Given you have a good recruiter or a good recruiting agency, which is, I think, a good segue to you, Nick.
Sorry, yeah, right. If you have a good one, that's it. But basically, the big ones were usually not so. Yeah, but good experience.
Yeah. To maybe catch in at the first point, why companies ask recruiting companies to find freelancers, this is indeed like really rarely the case, because most of the recruiting companies, 60% of the employees are just like account managers who do the whole day nothing else than reaching out to all potential clients. And especially at the big recruiting companies, there's the list of every company that is founding on a daily basis, and just kind of reach out to them and trying to convince them to work together. I think in general it really depends on the company. Mostly, for example, like the small startup with a broad network or stuff, they're not typical the clients who reach out to a classical big recruiting agency. But as long as so far when the companies are getting bigger, it's exactly that thing. They maybe don't hire 5 freelancers. We're talking about sometimes at some clients they have like 350 freelancers, and then it's really convenient to have one who is doing all the contract, all the payroll, and it's really like a managed, like the consolidation of the contracts and stuff. And in general, also we talked about the purchasing department. It's more convenient sometimes for them, because when a recruiting company negotiates with a client like a frame contract, sometimes they talk about the hourly rates for like the next 5 years. So it's like when you receive a request like a Java developer to make it really easy, with like 5 years experience, it will be in that kind of price range. And then in the end, the price will be the same, just like the recruiter is earning less. But they're doing that because there are like more than 100 freelancers working for them. So I think, they're still making enough money. And unfortunately, I think also that the market is really kind of a long time, the market was really settled. Like the big players, also here in Germany or in Europe in general, they negotiated these frame contracts like 30 years ago or something, and they're still they stuck. They have this relation, and that's why they're still working together. I think I'm totally convinced. That's also why I'm not there anymore. If there would be like we could reset like everything, and now starting again, it would work totally different because people are much more networking and stuff, and it's different. And especially one thing about the frame contracts, just to understand why it's convenient for companies. Often there is also a sentence about if a freelancer, for example, like if a freelancer gets sick, if a freelancer is not, if the collaboration is maybe not working out very well due to some reasons, then the managed service providing company needs to deliver within like 1 week another freelancer. And if you're like, I don't know, if you're a company and that happens like every now and then, and you have to reach out for all the freelancers by yourself, I think it's quite difficult. And also I think it's not so easy because I think there are many projects on LinkedIn and stuff who might be interesting. Or when I'm checking like startups and I see, they're looking for a freelance developer, it's also like, I don't know if all freelancers really look actively for companies they found interesting and then check the job screenings. I mean, that takes a lot of time to identify these jobs and companies you really want to work with. Yeah, so that's like one of the reasons. But the good thing is, I think the market is kind of changing because also I really recognize that less companies want to work with with traditional recruiting companies anymore in long distance, because they know once they hire the freelancer, for example, with many companies it's the case that the contract has to be over them for like forever, basically, because once they made the initial contact and then it's it. Yeah, and also what Erik is saying, of course, that was one of the selling points also when I worked for one of them. I don't want to put any names there, to put it in the sales pitch kind of, but with us you're more secure when it comes to bogus self-deployment. But which is really sad if we think about it, to use that fear, of course.
Yeah. But it's how a lot of sales practices work, right? It's like work actively with feelings, especially fear. So one last thing which comes to mind, and then I will shut up again on this topic, is that in Germany it's still it's more classically leaned towards permanent employment. And a lot of HR departments are not even capable of dealing with freelancers. I've seen this from time to time with clients where when I speak to someone from HR and they mean well, but it's essentially, if I would follow everything they ask me, I actually would open everything for deemed employment. And it's how they work internally in HR, which is more leaned towards permanent, because this is more seen as the normal in Germany. It's traditionally this way, and yeah.
So coming to the next question, we kind of already talked about it, of course. How can I acquire more of the project and clients I really like to work with? Yeah, it might be interesting. Maybe do you had a period, of course, I think when freelancing, where you have like no project and then you're really picking that client and project you want to work with, or was it already just the case that the project more or less are coming to you and then you just choose from a handful of options? Please, Holger, go for it.
It's a topic close to my heart. Sorry for jumping in first again, but this is something I work extremely hard on at the moment. Be clear who the clients are you want to work with. Know your clients. I'm not saying it's not down to, you have to know at the very beginning that you want to have only companies with 23 employees and 42 and having like it's a multiple of 42 in the house number. It's more of what is it what you really want to do? What is the work you want to do, and what is the way of working you want to do on a daily basis? The more you know this, the easier it gets to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. Problem is, if you go in and say I need something, it's the usual reflex you have. So I need something now because otherwise I can't pay rent. Think about your rates. Because if you go into freelancing contracting especially, and you can't survive a couple of months after you started doing it, you should adjust your rates, because this is part of how you make your daily rate, your hourly rate, whatever. And secondly, is like there is nothing like safety in freelancing. This is why you're on yourself, self-employed. And then if you put this aside and you know where you want to go, it's easier for you to say, no, this is not a project, or this is not a client I want to work with, which is fine. There's nothing wrong. I heard a nice sentence which will stick with me forever. It's like, no is a complete sentence. So if you don't want to work with someone, say no. If you want to explain, you don't have to. It's fine. If you get asked, answer if you like. Otherwise, no. And once you start doing this, you free up yourself to actually find the projects you're looking for. Because otherwise, if you don't know where you want to go, you say yes to everything which comes in and brings you money. But this takes up your time. And again, this is the scaling part. You can't scale yourself unless we finally get this cloning thing working. And if you work on something you don't like, and then something might come around with a bit more appealing things you want to work with, but you already said yes to the other client, it's a bit hard to switch. Or it's doable, but it's harder to do. And I will shut up now. Sorry, but I can't stress this enough. Know what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. To follow on that, I totally agree with Holger. And there's a question from Patrick, which the main question is, how can I figure out what I want? And I think the answer is through trial and error, right? So it's a bit unavoidable. It's just by trying, working with different clients and understanding, okay, this is something I don't like, and I will try to escape these things in the future. And this is something I like, so I will try to do more of the things I did with this specific client. So I'm looking for more projects that go into this direction. And of course, as Holger totally rightly said, understanding what I like and what I don't like is of course something you will build upon, right? And as soon as you know what I like, and as soon as you know, okay, this is the experience that I had, and this is what I want to, how can I acquire more projects like that? Is probably through networking events, through being active on LinkedIn, editing your bio on LinkedIn or on your website, and saying, hey, my strong side is this, and people will see it, and they will contact you specifically for this projects or for this key areas, and not for the other ones.
And also using your CV, not as a CV, but as the very first thing your client sees from you. And I made some statements. It's not perfect. It's like agile in its core. I change it like at least 2 times a month, and then I try it out. I just go out there, and even if I'm in a project, I try to acquire new projects and try to figure out what is the basic message I need to transport. So, but regarding the projects, how do you know whether you like or do not like a project without starting it and without trying it? What I just wrote in the chat is, if you're working just for the money of it, then you're having a job, and having a job is like having it's not what you're in it for. But if you quit too early, you maybe miss a huge opportunity to grow. And this is the hard part. This is the hard part in figuring out: am I here because of the money, or am I here to maybe grow in some particular area or so? Basically, what's the benefit I can take from this project, even if it is crap? What else?
Yeah, it's Patrick. You said, like, how can I figure that out? What I want. It is a process. So A, as the two of you already said, like, try it. But B, take the time to work with yourself on yourself. If it is yourself as a person, or yourself as a business person or business, set aside There is no fixed rule. Set aside 10 minutes a week, set aside 20 minutes a day, whatever. Sit down, and I love this idea of have an empty sheet of paper or a book and title it, in this case, Patrick's Perfect Life. And then think about what do you want. So what is important to you? What do you really treasure? What do you really can't stand at all? And then let this work in this. And then if you look at it in 2 weeks' time and you find out this is total nonsense what I wrote there, because I found out it is actually nice, it's fine, because we all change. And take the time and then refine this. And over time, you get to the point where you say, okay, this is what I definitely want. This is what I definitely don't want. So if you look at the next project coming in, you can say, yep, oh, no.
Yeah, thanks for your input. Just like one thing I can also confirm is like totally the CV thing. Often I see, and also then it went quite successfully with the client in the end. If you, for example, want to change your focus as a freelancer every now and then, which is totally normal, because I think you find rarely freelancers who do Java for like 25 years and they want to do it till they die. They're freelancers because they want to learn new things and stuff, and then use like the intro, or even if it's like a short email, you're introducing yourself, saying like, I did that and that in the past, but now I want to focus on this and that, and I already spent some time privately for some private projects or something. It doesn't need to be something super big, but just that the client sees and also like make sure that the client sees you're on the track and you really want to do that, I think. Yeah, so coming to the next question, it's like very essential, like how can I charge more? I think that's like also like two ways. Of course, freelancers can go at one point, you can sell a real service where we already talked about, but I also from my side seeing the market, I always have the feeling there is like, I don't know, an invisible border where the rates are not going higher anymore. It doesn't matter like how much experience you have, but maybe then, I don't know, maybe it's like a wrong thing, but I have the feeling at least that there is rarely I find freelancers in at least in the fields of IT who have, for example, like higher rates than 200 euros, like in really rare projects. What do you think?
Never say
No,
never.
not never. I already had that, but like rarely.
Yeah, but it's like if you think about it, a couple of years ago, no one would have even thought about spending $1,000 for a film. Now it works. So the really headliney answer would be ask for it. The more detailed one, or the more settled one, is try it. You are the product. Either it is your service or it is the product, and you have to find your price. One way would be, I think the link is already in the chat, of looking at things like Freiberufler IT, to get an idea, but ask for it, and then see if you find projects or not. And if not, you either don't put what you want to sell out there at its best, or you ask for too much.
I would add a different approach to this, because usually the recruiter is an entry barrier, and you need to at least post the price which gets you to the client's desk. And what I said before in one of my other answers, or in one of the other discussions, is after ending the client conversation, I usually tell them I will reach out with them together or via a recruiter or so. And sometimes I say, okay, I think the value would be okay to be a little bit higher, and then I seek out a discussion with the recruiter, try to sell the benefits and all the stuff. And not every time, but sometimes I'm also able to get higher rates after, for example, saying like X, it's now X plus 10% or so a day, and this is possible because contracts are negotiable. And if I tell the customer or the client in that case, well, okay, I understood your problem. I am the right guy to solve it, and I can do it way quicker than anybody else. And you get also this additional benefit. Then they're usually perfectly willing to give you like additional bucks on the hour. Just try it.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach, and that's also something we try to do when we're talking to the client. That it's not about the fixed hourly rate. If you have like someone super good, he will be like 3 days quicker maybe per month, and then you already it's in the end the same when it comes to the result. So yeah, I think we have time. Maybe if it's okay for you to ask 2 more questions. As a freelancer, should I put effort, time, money into doing certifications to any other proof? To any other proof of skills to stick out from competition? What do you think? Are clients really checking like the certifications, or it's more about the project and the skills you work with?
I can tell it maybe from my perspective of a product owner, product manager. I think you should definitely put your time into that for 2 reasons. First of all, to learn something new by yourself, disregarding what the clients ask for. Because as a freelancer, to be still relevant on the market, I think you definitely need to invest a specific percentage of money into yourself. Like imagine you're an employee of a company, they have a specific budget for learning new things, right? So this is the thinking that you should apply also to yourself as a freelancer, and you definitely need to invest something new, be it a certificate, be it a workshop, be it something else. This is first thing. Second thing, to be very specific about product management, a lot of people or a lot of potential clients actually ask for, do you have a Scrum Master certification? Do you have a Product Owner certification? Do you have any other Scrum.org certifications? And if yes, when did you do them? So this is a perspective from my point of view.
I'd say it depends on the skills you are requiring, and it depends on the project itself. So, for example, regarding product owner, Scrum Master, and stuff like this, if you have experience in what you're doing, the value of the certification, in my experience, just lowers to like you don't need to renew it at all. Secondly, I tend to just don't tell about the certifications I have, because sometimes people are not intimidated, but sometimes it feels like we got this in German, like not jack of all trades, but if you think someone is overqualified, then they think, oh my goodness, he's way too expensive and stuff like this. So also, for example, be careful regarding your what you show. Some people show like this list of certifications, and this doesn't deliver any value to the client. They are just interested in solving their problem, and if you could tell them, yeah, I'm repeating myself. So it depends a lot. There is a certain level of basic certification, but I'd say also, or especially in development, who really cares about a Ruby certificate? And the other thing, why is there a certification market? Because of trust. If a very new certification company just pops up and you do the certificate there, what is the actual value of it? So if you're acquiring a TÜV certificate, for example, perfectly fine. This is a trustworthy organization. This is just another factor to keep in mind.
Yep, very, very, very good points. I think also what's relevant is who is your client again. In Germany, it's good to have some lots and lots of papers. Yes, certifications depends on, in my view, on the area. So yeah, like you said, Dimitri, when it comes to product owner, product manager, project lead and all these different certifications. Again, there you have to be really careful and know where you want to go, because then you get into the whole fight of what's better. Is it Prince or is it Scrum Org or whatever? And at the same time, Americans love certifications, especially software certifications. So if you have if you have many clients in the US, by all means, yes, go for certifications. They love this stuff. And one last thing is, as a freelancer, we had this a bit earlier with change. Well, not really jack of all trades, but changing your field of work or your specification, or where you specialize in. So the field you specialize in, you want to change that. It can be a good way of getting into a new niche. Say you want to switch into, I don't know, DevOps or pen testing in the cloud, and then go towards and then do certifications showing you can do pen testing, and you know at least one cloud by a certification for AWS or for Azure, whatever. Essentially, in taking this as your credentials to open the market, to get into a new market you didn't cater before for. It can be an opener, it doesn't have to be, but it's a nice thing. Plus, totally with you, Dimitri, keep yourself up to date. If you need a certificate or proof of what's this thing, proof that many of these certificates say essentially you went through a online course. It's up to you if you want to put this online or not. I would highly recommend to filter this towards what you want to achieve. I like the metaphor of don't take the Lambo to Aldi for groceries. Yes, exactly that. Just put on there what you want to get found for on LinkedIn, for example.
Definitely agree with that, with both of you. And I would even more say that you need certifications more for yourself than for the clients. Most of the time, if you to be honest, you do a certification, 3 days after that, you wouldn't pass the same exam because you lose most of the information already. So it's just, and I think most of the clients know it as well. So if you just show, hey, I have this certification, it means that, okay, at some point you had this information, but much more important is the experience that is behind it. So I wouldn't use it as an opener. I would more use it as a support of your skills that you already have through your experience. And to answer a question from Matthias B, I would say that the certification in information security has a much bigger role, especially when we talk about CISSP, because if people see that, it's very hard to get that, to acquire this. And most of the people, recruiters on LinkedIn, they just search, okay, do you have CISSP or not? If not, next.
Okay, thanks. So we have two last questions, and maybe two of them we can kind of get pulled together. Which ways for your personally work the best working directly with clients, and maybe also something super interesting, like how did it work out for you to get your first client when you just started working as a freelancer? Was it for you, for example, the case that you already had the project and that was the reason why you dive into freelancing? I noticed some freelancers, it worked out for them that they were working for the same client as they worked as a full-time employee, and then just start working as a freelancer there. Maybe you can tell us about your journey.
Okay, I can start and I'll keep it short. It was not the case as Nick just pictured that for myself. It was not that I worked for company X at some point and understood, okay, I want to be a freelancer, and then I kind of proceeded to work for this company X from a different perspective. Now, not an employee, but now as a freelancer. So for me, it was a hard cut. I ended my employment completely. Full stop. I had 6 weeks of vacation left, so I can instead of 3 months, I needed to work only for 6 weeks. And then I had 6 weeks to find my next gig as a freelancer. And even that didn't work out. I think I needed like 2 months. So I had like 2 months gap between my final day as an employee and between my first day as a freelancer. And I had tons of interviews. That's why I'm saying that it's just about practice to understand. Also, as Erik said, that at some point you understand, okay, you need to listen more, talk less, understand what the client needs from you, what is the problem, to be very concise, be on the point. And only then it brought me like to my first project.
My first, before starting in contract freelancing, I used to be an employed consultant in consultancy, and I figured out. I had the opportunity to practice all the interview situations and the onboarding processes while being paid as an employee, but it was somewhat different doing it first time on your own. But most projects I get via recruiters until today, and but the projects I didn't get via recruiter were mostly former clients or referrals.
Yeah. So for me, I always wanted to be self-employed, and then I stumbled somehow in it. So this was my time back in the UK. We wanted to go back. I had a role lined up, and this didn't work out, but I already handed in my notice, and all of a sudden I was not having a job. And I knew I will go out of the country in roughly 6 to 9 months' time. And it would have been just unfair to any company to go in as a new permanent employee and just going through the probation phase and then say, howdy ho. So I said, okay, I'm out of excuses. I go with freelancing, and thankfully Java is something a lot of people look for. So I got the first project within, I think, 2 weeks. I forgot, it must have been 2 weeks or something. But I did work as a IT consultant before for a long time. I think it was like 7 years or 8 years. So I knew the drill already, how this whole contracting or say consulting works. Contracting is nothing else as a contractor, just better paid if you do it on yourself. And coming to direct contacts, one thing is speak to people. The classic is still if you have if you know your clients, if you have a concrete set of clients, call them up. I know it's hard, but do it. Or you play the long term or mid to long term game and start putting yourself out on social media like LinkedIn. So you start putting yourself into this niche in the head of your future clients. And show off what you can do for them, so that when the need arises on their side, they know your name and they will contact you. And the contacts I had so far were also mainly referrals, actually, either from some kind of networking events where someone remembered me and told a contact of theirs to contact me, or I had 2 people already approaching me on LinkedIn, but this takes time. So in the meantime, it's like, recruiters can help out sometimes, and then do a good job there. Stay in their minds. Do the best job you would do for a client you would acquire yourself as well. And if you do this, you need to put yourself out there somehow. And the best way of putting yourself out is showing how good you are in your daily work.
Cool. So I'm very happy for your insights. It's always super interesting to the other perspective, and we were able to answer almost every questions. I hope you all enjoyed the event, and thank you so much for your time. The whole event will be recorded, by the way, so if you want to share it, feel free to do so. Thank you so much and have a nice evening.
Welcome.
Bye.